This is my clearance lights, my marker light, my running light, and my low beam, my high beam, my left turn signal, my right turn signal, my forward flashers. Now can you assist me with the back, please? This is my running lights and my clearance lights. My left turn signal, my right turn signal, my forward flashers, and my brake lights. First thing I'm going to inspect is my exhaust system. My exhaust system coming from the front all the way to the back. I'm going to make sure my exhaust system is not cracked or broken and is securely mounted by the straps and hangers. If my exhaust system was leaking, I will see a black soot. I'm going to inspect my marker light. I have one on the other side. I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken and they're securely mounted, not missing hardware. The cover is clear in color, but the light bulb is amber in color because it's facing the front of the vehicle. The function of my marker lights, my left turn signal, my right turn signal, my forward flashers, my running lights. Now I'm going to inspect my mirrors, my fender mirror and my door mirror. I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken. They're securely mounted to the arm securely mounted to the vehicle, not missing hardware. Now I'm going to inspect my door. I'm going to make sure my door is not cracked or broken and is securely mounted. My door handle is not cracked or broken and is securely mounted, not missing hardware. My door open and close properly. My door, I'm going to make sure it's securely mounted by the hinges. My hinges, they properly aligned, they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, not missing hardware. This is my inside seal and my outside seal. I'm going to make sure it's not excessively worn or torn or ripped and it's a full contact to the vehicle. Now I'm going to inspect my steps and my catwalk. I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken, they're securely mounted, not missing hardware, they're free of debris, grease, or any other object. I'm going to inspect my fuel tank. My fuel tank, I'm going to make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's not leaking. It's securely mounted by two straps. I have one in here and one in here. My two straps for my fuel tank. I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken and they're securely mounted, not missing hardware. Is my fuel tank was shifting, I will see shiny metal because it's aluminum. Now I'm going to inspect the cap for my fuel tank. It's on the tight position. It's not cracked or broken and it's not leaking. I'm going to open it to make sure I have the safety chain. My safety chain is present, it's not cracked or broken, and it's securely mounted, not missing hardware. The rubber seal for my fuel cap is not excessively worn or torn, and it will not leak. Right in here is my depth tank. My depth tank, I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked or broken or leaking, and it's securely mounted, not missing hardware. The cap for my depth tank is on the tight position, it's not cracked, broken, and it's not leaking. The rubber seal inside is not excessively worn or torn, and it will not leak. Now, I'm going to inspect my cross members on this side of the vehicle. I have one in here, and one in here. My cross members, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, not missing hardware. I'm going to inspect the frame on this side of the vehicle. I'm going to make sure my frame is not cracked or broken, and is securely mounted, not missing hardware, no illegal holes or illegal welds. Now I'm going to inspect my drive shaft. My drive shaft, I'm going to make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted. My drive shaft is securely mounted by three U-joints. I have one in the front, one in the middle, and one in the back. My U-joints, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken and they're securely mounted, not missing hardware, and they have a properly greased. I'm going to inspect all the hoses on this side of the vehicle. I'm going to make sure it's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks, and they're securely mounted, not missing hardware. I'm going to inspect all the wires on this side of the vehicle. I'm going to make sure they're properly routed, no exposed wire, no frayed wire, securely mounted, not missing hardware. From here, I'm going to start inspecting my dual brake chambers. My dual brake chambers and my two clamps for my brake chambers, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken or leaking, and they're securely mounted, not missing hardware. The two hoses for my brake chambers, I'm going to make sure it's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks, and they're securely mounted, not missing hardware. Behind my brake chamber is going to be my push rod and my slack adjuster. I'm going to make sure my push rod and my slack adjuster, they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, not missing hardware. They're securely mounted by 2 pins and 2 cotter pins. If I pull on it, should be no more than 1 inch of the play. Now I'm gonna inspect my leaf springs. I have my leaf spring hangers. I have one in here and one in the back. My leaf spring hangers, I'm gonna make sure they're not cracked or broken and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. My leaf springs, I'm gonna make sure they're not cracked or broken or shifting and they're securely mounted by 2 U-bolts, shim, spacers, and 4 nuts. Right in here, right in the middle, is my leaf spring bushing. My leaf spring bushing, I'm gonna make sure it's not excessively worn or torn and it will not leak. Now I wanna inspect my inside axle seal and my outside axle seal. I'm gonna make sure my axle seal is not cracked, broken, or leaking, and is securely mounted, not missing hardware. If my axle seal was leaking, I will see puddle or spin trail. If it was leaking, I could not service myself. I had to take it to the mechanic or a shop. For my axle seal, I'm gonna come in inside and I'm gonna start inspecting my brake liners. I'm gonna make sure my brake liners, they're not cracked or broken, they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. They're not allowed to have less than 1/4 of the inch of the thinnest point of the material. My brake drum is not cracked or broken and is securely mounted. Doesn't have any sign of the coloration indicating the overheating problem. Between my brake liners and my brake drum, free of debris, grease, or any other contamination. Now I'm gonna start inspecting my butt rim. I'm gonna inspect my inside rim, my outside rim, my inside rim, and my outside rim. I'm gonna make sure my 2 rims, they're not cracked or broken and they're securely mounted. I'm gonna make sure in my 2 rims, they don't have any legal holes or legal wells. My 2 rims and my brake drum, they're securely mounted by the lug nuts. All my lug nuts, they're present, they're on the tight position. They're not cracked or broken and they're securely mounted. Doesn't have any sign of the distortion. It's when my lug nuts was loose, I will see rusty and these metal rims. I'm gonna mention that between my 2 rims, it's not daylight and it's a full contact. In between my 2 tires, free of debris or any other object. Now I'm gonna start inspecting my tires. My inside tire, my outside tire, my inside tire, my outside tire, and the face of my 2 tires. I'm gonna make sure it's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks. This is a steering tires. They're allowed to be regrouped, recapped, or retread, but they're not allowed to have less than 4/32 of the deepest point. These tires can be a mix match. The air specification on my steering tire and my dry tires is 120 psi. To check the air on my tires or to add air to my tires, I will do it to the valve stamps. I have 2. I have one in here and one over there. My 2 valve stamps, I'm gonna make sure they're not cracked or broken or leaking and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. My valve stamp cap, I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware, and it's not leaking. Any of my 2 valve stamps are not leaking. From here, I'm gonna inspect my mud flap. My mud flap, I'm gonna make sure it's not excessively worn or torn or ripped and it's securely mounted to my vehicle, no missing hardware. Proper distance to my tire and proper distance to the ground. Now I'm gonna come into the back. Here in the back, first thing I'm gonna inspect is the frame on this side of the vehicle and the cross members on this side of the vehicle. I'm gonna make sure they're not cracked or broken, they're securely mounted, no missing hardware, doesn't have any illegal holes or illegal welds. Now from here, I'm gonna inspect my lights. The lights on this side of the vehicle, they're red in color because they face in the back of the vehicle. The function of these lights is gonna be my left turn signal, my right turn signal, my forward flashers, and my running lights. My lights, they're not cracked or broken, securely mounted, no missing hardware. The white lights that I have in the back, they represent as my reverse. They're not cracked or broken, they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. The light right here is my license plate light. I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. I'm gonna inspect all the hoses on this side of the vehicle. I'm gonna make sure it's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks, and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. I'm gonna inspect all the wires on this side of the vehicle. I'm gonna make sure they're properly routed, no exposed wire, no frayed wire, securely mounted, no missing hardware. I will inspect the other side of the vehicle, the same way I inspect this side of the vehicle. I'm going to inspect my couplings. First thing I'm going to mention, this is my service line. and this is my emergency line. I'm going to make sure it's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks, and they're securely mounted. They're securely mounted to my tractor, and they're securely mounted to my trailer. They're securely mounted to my trailer with the glass hand and the glass hand receivers. My glass hand and my glass hand receivers, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. In between my glass hand and my glass hand receivers is a rubber seal. I'm going to make sure it's not excessively worn or torn, and it will not leak. Now I'm going to inspect my electrical cord. My electrical cord, I want to make sure it's no exposed wire, no frayed wire, properly routed, securely mounted, no missing hardware. And it's securely mounted to my tractor and securely mounted to my trailer, to the junction box on my trailer. My electrical cord doesn't have electrical tape or black tape. I want to mention that my hoses and my electrical wire, they're a proper distance to my catwalk. Now I'm going to inspect the apron on my trailer. The apron on my trailer, I'm going to make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted. This one is weld, so I'm going to inspect the welds, make sure it's not cracked, welded, or miswelded. Right there is my fifth wheel. My fifth wheel, I'm going to make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted. Between my apron and my fifth wheel is no daylight and it's properly greased. This one right here is my fifth wheel lever. My fifth wheel lever, I'm going to make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. It's on the lock position. My fifth wheel is securely mounted to the platform by the bolts. I have one on this side and one on the other side. My bolts for my fifth wheel, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken and they're securely mounted and they're on the tight position. My platform is securely mounted to my frame by the bolts. All the bolts are present. They're not cracked or broken, don't have any distortion. They're securely mounted to my frame. This is a sliding fifth wheel. I'm going to inspect the hose for my sliding fifth wheel. I'm going to make sure there's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks, and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. Right in the back is my air ram. My air ram, I'm going to make sure it's not cracked or broken, and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. I'm going to inspect the pins for my sliding fifth wheel. I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, and they're on the lock position. From here, I'm going to walk into the back, and I'm going to inspect my kingpin. My kingpin, I'm going to make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted. It's on the lock position by the locking jab. My locking jab is not cracked or broken, securely mounted, no missing hardware, and it's in the locking position around the chain of the kingpin. I want to mention that between my landing gear and my vehicle is a proper distance to perform a 90-degree turn. I'm going to perform my air brake test. For all my tests, I'm going to using my primary air gauge. First, I'm going to check my ABS light. For this test to be success, my ABS light should come in on and off in less than 10 seconds. My ABS light is on. My ABS light is off in less than 10 seconds. This is a good test. Now I'm going to perform a safety start. I'm going to make sure my truck is in neutral. My spring brakes are applied. First test I'm going to perform is my governor cutout test. For this test to be success, my governor should cut out no higher than the 140 psi. This is a good test. My governor cut out at 130 psi. It's a good test because it's not higher than the 140 psi. Now I'm going to perform my leakage test. My needle has settled at 95 psi. I'm going to start my minute now. For this test to be success, I should not lose more than 4 psi in this tractor-trailer combination in 1 minute. My minute is up. My needle is still at 95 psi. I don't lose more than 4 psi in 1 minute in this tractor-trailer combination. This test is good. Next test I'm going to perform is my lower warning test. For this test to be a success, my warning light and buzzer should come up no lower than 55 psi. My warning light and buzzer come up at 70 psi. This is a good test because it's no lower than 55 psi. Now I'm going to perform my spring brake pop-up test. For this test to be a success, my spring brakes should pop up. Go to my spring brakes pop up at 25 psi. This is a good test. Now I'm going to perform another safety start to build the air to the normal pressure to proceed to perform my torque test. I'm going to put my truck in neutral. To accelerate the process, I'm going to press the fuel, not exceeding the 1200 RPMs. Now that my air built at the normal pressure, I would have put my truck in a low gear. And I'm gonna test my parking brake. This test is a success. My parking brake holding this tractor trailer in combination in place. Now I'm gonna test my trailer brake. This test is a success. My trailer brake holding this tractor and trailer combination in place. Now I'm gonna test my service brake. I'm gonna move forward less than 5 miles per hour. I'm gonna look through all my mirrors, make sure it's safe to do so, and I'm gonna look forward. This test is a success. My service brake holding this tractor and trailer combination in place. My vehicle don't pull into the right or to the left, indicating the brake adjustment problem. This completes all my brake tests. Now that my vehicle is running, I like to perform my in-cab inspection. First thing I'm going to inspect is my seatbelt. My seatbelt is not ripped or torn, securely latched and unlatched, securely mounted to the floor, securely mounted to the vehicle, no missing hardware. I'm going to inspect all my mirrors. All my mirrors, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. My mirrors, they're securely mounted to the arm, they are securely mounted to the vehicle, no missing hardware. All my mirrors, they're adjusted to me to drive. My window roll up and roll down properly. It's not cracked or broken, and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. My windshield is not cracked, broken, or excessive pitting. It is securely mounted by the rubber seal. My rubber seal, I'm gonna make sure it's not excessively worn or torn, and it will not leak to the inside. My windshield wipers, are securely attached to the arm. The arm securely attached to the vehicle, no missing hardware. My windshield wiper blade is not excessively worn or torn, and it's a full contact to the vehicle. My windshield washer fluid is working properly. This is a 20-inch steering wheel. I want to make sure it doesn't have more than 10 degrees of play. This is my city horn, it's working properly. This is my air horn, it's working properly. My steering wheel is not cracked, broken, or damaged, and is securely mounted, no missing hardware. I'm going to look for my light indicators. This is my left turn signal indicator, my right turn signal indicator, my four-way flasher indicators, and my high beam indicator. All my indicators are working properly. I'm going to mention that all my gauges, they're not cracked or broken, they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. This one right here is my oil pressure gauge, it's working properly, rising to normal. My temperature gauge is working properly, rising to normal. My RPM gauge is working properly. My speedometer gauge is working properly. I noticed that because I drove the vehicle here to the DMV. My volt meter gauge is working properly. It should be between 12 and 14 volts. It's a little over the 14, but it doesn't affect the function of the vehicle. My fuel gauge indicating that I have enough fuel for all my tests. Right in here is my DEF gauge. My DEF gauge is indicating that I have enough DEF for all my tests. I should not drive in this vehicle with less than 1 quart of that DEF tank. My primary and secondary air gauge, they're working properly. We noticed that because we just complete the air brake test. Right in here, I have extra fuses properly graded for this vehicle. My climate control. I'm gonna make sure my defrost and my heater are working properly. My defrost is working properly, and my heater is working properly. This is my fire extinguisher. My fire extinguisher, I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked, broken, or leaking, securely mounted, no missing hardware. It's fully charged and properly graded for this vehicle. The pin for my fire extinguisher is at the lock position. Right in the back, I have my jockey box. Inside my jockey box, I have 3 reflectable triangles. I'm gonna make sure they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. I'm gonna mention that my floor is nothing to obstructing my pedals when I'm driving. On my dash, it's nothing to obstructing my view when I'm driving. This completes my in-cab inspection.